Imagine Ireti, imagine hope. Ireti Olua is a 7-year-old Nigerian girl who has 5 brothers, 2 older and 3 younger, an educated dad, a mother who diligently works part-time in her community, and a name. That means what she and so many like her hold on to today. Hope. Not because they want to, but because they have to. Ireti is part of the 10.5 million children who live in Nigeria but are unable to go to school. She longs for the education her dad was able to receive. She desires the first day of school her brothers were able to experience while she sat in the house, cooking the meal they would eat once they returned. Ireti understands the cycle she has been forced into and would do anything to get out of, but she's trapped. Those 10.5 million children are all trapped. Illiteracy wishes for what she cannot have, the seemingly unimaginable, the ability to receive an education and open the doors to her aspiring profession, the shot at a better life. 10.5 million children. 10.5 million Nigerian children are not in school. According to BBC, this is the highest number of out-of-school children in the world. Out of this group, 60% are girls. Though numerous organizations advocate for girls' education in Nigeria, this alarming statistic proves that this goal has yet to be realized. Rural Nigeria holds about 9 to 8 million people, which is about 50% of the country's population. The internet penetration rate of the whole country is a mere 46.6% of the population compared to the 86% penetration rate of the United States, a developed country. How much lower must this rate be for users living in rural areas where the connectivity is much lower and the broadband reach is virtually non-existent? The convenience of the internet, which many of us see as a necessity, which many of us take for granted, is not an option for these millions of children. Millions of children are not only unable to go to school, but they do not have the access to the internet to make use of quality educational resources. The impact of this lack of internet can be seen in the rural Nigerian community of Ibo Ora, which holds 60,000 people. Merely 13.96% of this population is literate, and the average literacy rate is 16.5% higher in males than in females. The dangers of illiteracy are far too great to ignore. For a child, this means lower income and lower quality jobs, and for the nation as a whole, drug abuse, cultism, and terrorism risk increase.
When children are to school, they are not literate. And they grow up and they find their peers doing well. What they want to do is bring them down to be where they are. Can't afford to live the kind of life you are living. So I'd rather spoil everything that you have lived to put together.
Aside from a lack of access to the internet, there are numerous other barriers that prevent children in rural Nigeria from receiving an education.
People want to get their children to school, but now they are faced with economic problems. They cannot afford to take their children to schools.
Now imagine if there was a way to reach these 10.5 million children in just an instant. Gaining an access to education would no longer be affected by lack of time, financial burden, nor access to technology. That's exactly what we'd like to propose. Ready.
RED-E is an automated voice system that utilizes voice recognition to recognize what a user reads, repeats it back, and corrects any mistakes in the user's words or pronunciation. The user will use a rudimentary phone device from which they will likely have access to call this number and begin the process of RED-E. For first-time readers, RED-E utilizes phonics instruction, which has been proved to be the most effective way to help children learn to read. RED-E starts with the first letter of a word, states the phoneme, asks the child to repeat it, recognizes what the child has said, decides if it is correct or incorrect, restarting if it is wrong, and then goes on to the next phoneme.
You want to learn how to read the front of Napa corned beef bought at a DD stores. Let's start. The first letter is C. K. K. Repeat the sound.
Coo, coo, coo.
Incorrect. Try again. K. K.
K, k, k.
Correct. Move on to next sound.
Once a user has successfully repeated each phoneme, the system will say the entire word back to the user and then ask the user to repeat it. As they learn the alphabet, they will be able to learn word by word and start to learn the meanings of words and understand sentence structure and syntax. The system can read to you as well. The lack of access to books for many will not be an issue either. The user will be able to pick any object around the house, like a cereal box or a shampoo bottle, and tell the system what they have picked up and choose whether they want to read or be read to and begin the process, as seen in this example.
You want to read the original Fruit Loops ingredients.
Yes.
Ingredients: sugar, corn flour blend, wheat flour, whole grain oat flour, oat fiber.
What is fiber?
Fiber is the part of plant-based foods that the body cannot break down.
RED-E would work through the use of an interactive voice response (IVR) system and the application of AI through the use of voice recognition and neural networks. Users would call the specific phone number that would connect to an IVR system controlled through the power of AI. The AI system would be tethered and have stable access to the internet. The AI system would have a built-in speech recognition system trained through the use of a recurrent neural network and deep learning. The machine would be trained to recognize voice patterns and to listen for keywords and would then be calibrated and adjusted to a person's specific voice. It would be trained to record frequencies from a user's voice, translate this into code, and analyze the code to detect patterns and key phrases, much like Siri. The AI network would then search for these keywords, perhaps pertaining to a specific book or package around the house, and search for it through the internet. It would be programmed to take any relevant documentation or file from the internet and convert it into an MP3 file. It would recognize the text patterns and words of the documentation in the intended context. When the audio is outputted to the user, the machine would still be trained to listen for commands from the user such as stop, pause, define.
Since the AI system would be connected to the internet, it would receive the information through speech, analyze and process it, and then search the internet for you. Then once it retrieves the information from the internet, this information would be converted into an MP3 file and back through the phone line to the user.
When looking at the financial aspects of implementing RED-E, various factors come into consideration, including the cost for security solutions such as firewall, antivirus, and real-time threat intelligence. In addition, how RED-E would be tested across a wide range of rudimentary phones in the area is a factor. The design and testing phases will also have their associated costs. One of the most important financial aspects is the finances required for cloud and internet usage of the database. MTN, one of Nigeria's mobile network providers, also endorses youth education and empowerment, which can be a potential outlook into the funding required for our project. When looking at the financial implications of RED-E, however, it is more financially feasible than other competitors. RED-E is financially accessible to all individuals in rural Nigeria. RED-E utilizes the already wide presence of flip phones in Nigeria, in which 42 to 48% of users were reported to own a flip phone. This drastically reduces the cost of interface development and allows for access to rural and difficult-to-reach areas. Through cloud hosting, users do not have to pay to access RED-E, thereby impacting millions of individuals.
Our competitors include the Nigerian government, which is currently employing a radio and TV system to reach rural children for education, Duolingo, and other language learning platforms. Additionally, there are also nonprofits like United for Education and the Grace Foundation, both of which aim to target educational disparities in Nigeria as a whole. The uniqueness of our product, however, lies in capitalizing upon the weakness of each platform. None of these platforms prioritize the four strengths of our product, which include rural accessibility, user interaction, cost effectiveness, and time flexibility. Our product will be able to reach millions of rural Nigerian children who have access to rudimentary phone systems. The AI will be able to converse with the child, learn about them, and interact. The cost will also be so much cheaper than what it would cost to hand out millions of high-tech devices to parents. And finally, children won't have to leave the roles parents require them to fulfill at home, because our product brings education to them.
Nigeria is facing a national crisis. The outcry against SARS, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, has left the nation in civic unrest as millions of citizens fight for their fundamental human rights. The disregard of the youth has become increasingly evident with these times and is all the more reason why our solution is absolutely necessary. With this civic unrest, the value of education is sure to be neglected, and the number of uneducated children will rise as a result. We cannot stand to see this number rise, and we hope that you cannot either. It is our duty as fellow human beings to come to the help of Nigeria in its time of struggle. This does not mean that we show the nation pity. Rather, it means that we must show it empathy, and we must give these illiterate children a chance at hope. We must do everything in our power to reduce the number of illiterate children in Nigeria.